Unless I'm
Yeah, I
misunderstanding.
mean, where we're in further agreement is that I do think there needs to be some kind of a de-radicalization process. I think that the achieving that through force is, let's say, I would say equally likely to achieving it through diplomacy. It's just diplomacy costs far less life. So I would always support a solution that doesn't cause tens of thousands, and who knows when all is said and done, maybe hundreds of thousands of civilian deaths. I think, and it's unclear that when all is said and done, we very well may be in a situation where we have over 100,000 uh, dead Palestinian civilians, and yet we don't have peace. So again, I think we're choosing a path of force with no clear um, understanding of this will even get us to the goal of peace. And I think diplomacy is actually equally as likely to get us there. Again, through this coalition we're building in the Middle East, through international pressure, through making some concessions. Not going to sit here and say that I think there's a clear path, but I think it's equally likely to do it through diplomacy than through force. Just one causes much less harm.
So
I
would you agree
Yeah,
with the statement that most Palestinians and most Israelis, if they could have their objectives achieved, would rather do it via diplomacy than conflict on both sides?
I would say yes. I think it's just harder to imagine what that looks like. Again, I keep going back to this innate like thing we have that violence often is seen as the simplest solution. And not to get too deep into evolutionary biology, but if you look at how we evolved, like we were the offspring of very violent like Homo sapiens. You know, it wasn't the peaceful ones that survived. We used to live in a world where you would come across a rival tribe, you couldn't speak the same language. You actually diplomacy is almost impossible when you can't speak the same language. So we evolved in such a way, you see a threat, it's either you kill them or they kill you. This is now in our DNA, right? So I do think most would prefer diplomacy, but we're wired in such a way where we're led towards force because it just seems like a clearer path. It's in our DNA. So, you know, I urge for us to take a step back and not act based on our instinct and try to really look for a path forward that is not going to cause such a toll on human life. We are now in a situation, we have evolved culturally in such a way where we could communicate with one another and we don't need to live by the sword for eternity. And this is how I think society needs to move towards. And this is what I will continue to advocate for. And I
I
don't
think
think any amount of harm I see is going to change my opinion on this, because what I know for certain is that change is certain. And what can we do to have change happen in a favorable direction?
so.